Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Koop'd podcast. The podcast that also dropped 50 on the Washington Wizards last night, but nobody seems to be talking about it. Quite disappointing. As always, folks, my name is Koopa, and each week I sit down with one of my friends, and we just kind of shoot the crap about whatever we're doing to keep ourselves busy in these trying times. And this week, folks, I am sitting down with one of my favorite people whom I've crossed paths with in the Smash community. He is coming to us from the great north coming to us from Canada. He is the commissioner of the Royal Battle Association, which we're going to be talking about a little bit today. Community leader from Toronto, Ontario, and a sad Toronto Raptors fan, and one of my favorite humans. As mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm, cooped up welcome to my friend Mickel. Mickel, my man, how are you?
It's been a minute. I've been great, man. All things considered, been hanging in there for the last 14 months or so. Lots of ups, lots of downs, but overall, feeling pretty good.
Yeah, man, I totally feel that. In a trying times, as I talk a lot about on the show how a lot of the people that I have guests on are obviously people that I know, not just from the Smash community, but they are primarily from the United States. You're actually our first international guest, so congratulations to you. You've broken new ground here on the podcast.
Nice. Where's my shovel?
Yeah, I know. I it's coming to you in the mail. It's probably going to take a while.
That's okay. I know.
They might have been disinfected. They might have to disinfected in the mail for COVID or something. So.
Totally fair. It's worth the wait. I mean, I've had a few interesting shipping wait times, but actually not this pandemic because usually I've been just ordering locally, so it's okay.
That's awesome. So yeah, obviously you're coming to us from the aforementioned Toronto, Canada, a home of not only some great Super Smash Brothers, but also a failed vacation site to me. That's another thing that in a growing list of things that COVID took away from me was I was gonna go to get on my level for the first time this past coming year, and I will have to that Vince Carter jersey is gonna sit longingly in my shopping cart until then, because I refuse to buy it unless I can actually wear it in Canada.
Can't blame you. You know what? It's definitely a good little relic to bring up. I know it wasn't too long ago when people were very iffy about Vince Carter, because of, I guess, the way he left the team and all that jazz. But a lot of people have come around, myself included. I definitely was in the camp that hated his guts when he left. Obviously, I was too young to understand that our front office and our ownership was very incompetent. But you know what? It is what it is. And you know what? Time tends to heal most, if not all, wounds. So definitely looking forward to that. And Gommel, obviously, I think Joe just announced he's got the usual dates booked up for next year, which is actually around this time, May 20th, 22nd, 2022. So,
yeah, I'm very excited to don, because I've decided what one of my gimmicks, because one of my many gimmicks as a commentator is I love to wear, like, my aesthetic is substitute teacher in the winter. I love to wear, like, Argyle sweaters, and I like to look like that I can, I'm probably like subbing in for like a high school English class, and they're probably all going to dominate me because Gen Z terrifies me. But none the wiser. I've always I decided that my summer commentary gimmick is going to be sports jerseys. So I've already eyed some fun ones for next year, so it's going to be a good time.
That's it, because I know this, like the last summer and especially this summer, because of the way the schedules have been moved around, the sports calendar is kind of cracked around these times of year now, because you've got playoffs starting up, you've got European Championship going on as well next month, so definitely a lot to look forward to in that sense. But you know what? I want to say one more thing about the substitute teacher gimmick that you usually do. I mean, I'll be honest, I loved my substitute teachers because it usually meant that A, they were pretty cool, and B, be a lot more laid back. And I think that's something to remember and appreciate.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's definitely my take. I have a one standout memory from high school of a substitute teacher, and
Yeah.
I forget this guy's name, but he was great. He was only really with us for like a few weeks. I think he like took a job somewhere else as he was subbing for us. He did a like shot for shot, like perfect rendition of the Bad Romance dance, and it was fire. It's like lived rent free in my brain for over a decade. It is like one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Damn, I'm now sad that I didn't know you in high school because I probably would have seen this too. You know,
Oh
that
yeah,
would have been really cool. Okay.
yeah, it was great. But yeah, so my stay tuned for what sports jersey I don when I reach into Canada next year. Actually, I've made it quite easy for myself because shout out to Toronto Blue Jay great Alex Rios. He's the reason that I can actually use my government given last name in MLB The Show because he exists, and that's a name that I can hear the announcers say over the air. So I take great pride in Puerto Rico's very own. Very excited for that.
You know, I do want to say this. Alex Rios was actually touted as like a future superstar at one point when he was coming up with us. And for a couple seasons with us, he actually was an all-star. And then he left, was a solid producer, but I don't think he ever really lived up to what he was supposed to be. Still, I think he was pretty cool, and I liked watching him when he was on our team. So it was nice.
Oh yeah, 100%. Also, represented Team Puerto Rico, obviously in the World Baseball Classic back in
Yes, sir.
in 2013. Stacked team, by the way. One of my favorite hats that I own. Not a big hat person, but that was that was quite the
fun.
Yeah, Yadier Molina, Carlos Beltran, like
Woo!
totally stacked. Like I wish the World Baseball Classic was a bigger deal whenever it came around every like 4 years because I think it's cool. You know, it's fun to watch Japan dominate like every cycle. It's fun to see like which American teams take the stands. It's always kind of fun to see that, in an era of time where, national pride is fleeting and very few and far between. It is kind of nice to see sports kind of bring people together, albeit for a few months.
Absolutely. I remember the one year Canada beat the US. That was funny.
yeah, that was indeed a thing. I have I forgot what it was. I think it might have been a Team Canada versus Team Mexico or somebody, but like I think because of the rules of the World Baseball Classic, if you like didn't score like X amount of runs, then like you weren't gonna like make it out of the pools phase. And I think like Team Canada like bunted like with the bases loaded to like score a run, and I don't think the Team Mexico like understood like why they were doing that. So they showed a shot of the third baseman calling for the pitcher to hit the next guy coming up, and he did it. And then then a brawl ensued. And then in the press conference, the manager was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. My bad." So it was like, "Oh, this is awkward."
I'll tell you, man. There is definitely some interesting things that happen there. But yeah, I'd love to see it either just like get more interest or just kind of like be relaunched and just re-promoted. Because I love international tournaments, like you said. It just brings even more people together. And I feel like they're talked about more than say like general sports leagues in certain circles, because national pride is on the line. And sometimes, as fleeting as that is, it's good to have that, especially when, it's your country up against another country and one goal or one run or 1 point will make all the difference. So
yeah, I never got to skip class to watch like a World Series game, but like I definitely got to skip classes in high school to watch, the U.S. men's team or the U.S. women's team, like, advance in the World Cup, every 4 years or however it so on and so forth. It was fun. So, whenever I believe if I remember correctly, I think the World Baseball Classic was supposed to happen last season. But obviously,
for the pandemic,
yeah, global pandemic canned any advancement of that happening. But we can we could talk more about baseball and such and other sports coming up soon, because we got a lot stuff to cover today, but I want to spend this question by asking, do you remember like when it became like, you know, like fact that we became homies? I've been trying to remember for the longest time because, you know, we've both been, you know, we've both been members of our own respective scenes for quite a while. And like, you eventually just kind of like, you know, like gravitate towards people, and like, you know, we each have a bunch of mutual friends and stuff. And like, I keep these events, sometimes like the memories just kind of fall through the cracks. And I'm just like, I've been trying to remember, it's like, when did we first start like kicking it with each other? Because you're always somebody who I look forward to seeing, you know, every, you know, couple of months whenever we, you know, populate the same spaces and tournaments. But I'm trying to remember the first time that actually happened. I don't know if you have a better collective memory than I do.
Likewise, I can't say for sure because I know that after a while all the events just blend together. I'm sure you feel the same way. But I know it's like recently, like in 2019, I think that's when we started to kind of like interact more per se. So
Yes.
I wanna say it was definitely before then, but I think that's when we started to actually start to kind of more so connect with each other rather than just a simple hi, how's it going? Bye. See you next time kind of deal.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that definitely tracks. And like, you know, we both obviously, you know, have a lot of mutual friends that, you know, share a lot of same interests. You know, not just outside of you know, esports, because, you know, we both enjoy Super Smash Brothers, and we both enjoy like, you know, the nerdier side of things. But we're also adults and humans who have other interests and stuff. Obviously, sports, you know, being a big one, and other video games in general. And those are the type of people that I always like to keep in my like immediate circle, because like, you know, it gives you more things to do when you're at tournaments. You know, as much as I enjoy like the you know, the bingo card things to do at Smash tournaments, which consists of spending too much money, probably getting sick, at one point probably getting Korean barbecue like more than twice throughout the course of a weekend. Like,
you make a bingo card? Sorry.
mentally I make a bingo card, but it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, like I gotta, there's certain beats that definitely get hit in a lot of these weekends. But like, you know, some of the times it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, God forbid, you know, someone flies into a tournament on a day early, and like, you know, we can watch a basketball game or something, or, you know, we can talk about sports and do something dumb. And or like what you said in the sound test you love to do. You love to just walk around and just like explore different areas. And I think that's great, because one of the things that I miss the most about, you know, traveling and going to tournaments is just being able to explore an area that I've never been in before, because that's something I definitely took for granted a lot of, you know, before the lockdown happened. And it's something I am definitely going to try to do more of, you know, whenever things get back to a sense of somewhat normalcy, you know, is definitely try to explore, you know, the various cities that, you know, gamers tend to populate every, you know, couple of weekends out of the year.
Sure. No, I'm the same way. Like back before the pandemic happened, I definitely took I guess like my time for granted. I wouldn't really explore. Like I would get in a day early and leave like a day later, usually at every event, because I want to make sure I have enough time to kind of like fly in, fly out, be comfortable with things. But ever since I've now shifted to like work from home and having a lot more free time and being able to set routines and whatnot, I've definitely had that now. As I do it, had that longing feeling of when things do get back to normal, I just want to kind of like take some time and make the most out of said time. So,
Do you have a
we'll
favorite?
see what happens.
Did you have a favorite city in the U.S. that you like? You know, if there's a tournament in that given city that like it's one of your, you know, go-to places throughout the year that you just love to go to.
My number one go-to right now is actually New York City, and here's why. Because
Hey,
I last went there 10 years ago, but it was with my parents, so it definitely wasn't the free-form experience. And I would just love a chance to check it out myself. And pretty much, yeah. Like I think because New York City, in a way, has a lot of similarities to Toronto. At least Manhattan does. But yeah. When the time comes, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
that's
I
good
know
to
it's your neck
know.
of the woods.
That's good to know. Good to know if I visit Toronto, I can get lost and like, you know, I can navigate the streets as I would if I got lost in New York City, which is just it's promising, because I am as much as I enjoy to explore, I am the king at getting lost going anywhere, because I have zero sense of direction. I am truly lost without a GPS. I would not survive in the woods under any circumstances.
Yeah. I was gonna say try walking in a square or a circle, but hey, you know, sometimes you just forget and you just like say, hey, you know what? That looks pretty cool. I'm gonna way. I'm gonna go down this road, and I'm gonna go down this road. It's like, oh no, hold on. Where are we now?
Yeah, see, some people navigate via street signs. I navigate by wherever I can get like the best sandwich in a given area. So I'm a big sandwich guy in these neck of the woods.
You know what? Can't disagree. That's a pretty good motivational tool to do.
Yeah, no, but yes, listen, we are, I've definitely been warming up to the idea of like getting excited to go back to tournaments, whenever that may be, as long as I can keep myself from, being safe and like not getting sick or like dying or anything. That would be great. Admittedly, as we are on the heels of the biggest qualifying leg of the Smash World Tour this weekend, which is going to feature a large portion of the Eastern Seaboard, and I guess some parts of the Midwest, which, for reasons unbeknownst to me, it's going to be fun. But where's I understand, because obviously you're in Canada, COVID, is still like a very much in the forefront, in Canada and such, with whether it be with vaccine rollouts. And I understand certain parts of the country are still like very much under lockdown. So like, where are you like at your overall like excitement level of like the notion of going to a Smash tournament maybe by the end of the year?
By the end of the year, absolutely 100%. I'm pretty excited about that because obviously, as people get vaccines, we're up to what I think. I know compared to the U.S., it's nothing special, but we're at like 57% of all adults vaccinated with first dose in Ontario, at least. So, judging by that, and judging that the fact that we're actually, getting more in, I feel confident that we'll be able to get events up either by the end of Q3, so like September-ish. Getting back into it and trying to run from there. Obviously, scope of the tournament is like size, and depending on who wants to open up their venues again, all depends on the individuals and the TOs and all that jazz. But yeah, by the end of the year, I think we'll be back in a full swing, quote unquote. Obviously, masking rules and whatnot we'll wait on, but looking over to your guys' side, obviously you've got some stuff happening soon. InfinityCon. Among other things. So yeah, we haven't even opened.
This is my reminder. I was gonna say this is my reminder to you folks that we are not coming to you from Florida. Shout out to Florida, but no, thank you, Florida. At the same time.
No, thank you, Florida. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We haven't even opened indoor buildings. We won't until probably like at least June 2nd, if not later. So yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of the stuff in my neck of the woods. The tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania as a subsection of that. I believe as of yesterday or today in New Jersey, I think a lot of places are like allowed to open up at 100% capacity. Which, yeah, it's in my opinion, it feels a little soon, but the vaccine rollout has been very good. ICU cases are down, which is, obviously the important thing. The science, believe it or not, is working.
Yep.
I don't, shockingly enough, if you listen to the scientists and not talking heads on your television, you will understand that, these things are working. Obviously, from what I understand, a lot of places I've been to have definitely still taken their precautions, very nicely. And even in my neck of the woods, where a lot of, vaccinated like Smash locals, are popping up. They're really being vigorous with people. It's like, hey, like, if you can get vaccinated and, that's cool. If you can't, you have to wear, at least like wear a mask like the whole time or whatever. And, they're definitely, the TOs that have decided to like, start opening things up again are definitely doing a good job, making everybody feel safe. I would love to be able to like safely go to something by like the end of the year. Cause admittedly, like as much as I've enjoyed this like time off and commentating from home has been an adventure. Sometimes for the good.
Yeah, you just want to see people again, I think. I was just going to like race out and say, cause I'm feeling that exact same way. And it's just like, you know what? It's great sometimes hopping in a voice call with the homies and all that, but it's like after a while it just gets old. And when you can't see anybody in person, for whatever reasons it might be, either if it's, you're self-conscious, you don't want to, hang out with people if you're not fully vaccinated, or the government just straight up doesn't allow for certain things to happen. Yeah, it wears on you, and I agree.
Yeah, Yeah, and I actually got around to like seeing a few of my friends like a couple weeks ago. We've have all gotten our shots, and we're all like past a threshold, which we can hang out with each other, with peace of mind. And if there's one thing I definitely have to exercise, it's my social batteries again, because hanging out with people, like I forgot how like exhausting that could like be on long periods of time. Because like I don't realize it I never realized it when I was at events. But
Right.
I'm just so like hopped up on adrenaline by like seeing people that by the time I eventually get back to wherever I might be staying, I just crawl into bed and die. So like I definitely need to get better at like prolonging my social interactions with people for like longer than like 20 minutes, 20 feet away from somebody on their front lawn.
True. It's so true. I guess like that's one thing that is gonna be asked of us to when we get back to things, and I'm a little bit nervous about that myself. Usually I hype myself on my own adrenaline, and I don't notice I'm about to crash until like I start crashing, and then at that point it's
Yeah.
just too late. I've had several instances where I'm just like hanging in the hotel room with the homies, and all of a sudden my eyes are just shutting. It's like, oh no. Oh, I gotta go to sleep. Damn it. But you know what? It's okay. I think some of the stuff that I've been doing over the last year or so is probably gonna get me in a better headspace and better physically and mentally, I guess, as well. I've actually done a thing that's helped me out. Maybe I've cut down my coffee consumption rate, so hopefully
Hey, welcome to the
that.
club.
I used to be regularly at like 2 to 3 cups a day, and now I'm at one, and like once a week I've had 2 cups a day. So it's just we've been gradually moving down. So I'm hopeful that can continue, and I just stick at one just right at the morning to get me going, and we'll see where it carries me.
Dude, it is so hard to cut back
Mhm.
on coffee. I realize I've been
Yeah.
trying to like cut myself back a lot too. Whether not just from like drinking more than 2 cups of coffee a day or like 1 cup of coffee a day, but also like not trying to buy out as much coffee as I do, because I didn't realize it until I like started
Yeah.
sitting down and like budgeting a bit. But it's like I spend so much money on coffee a week. It is disgusting. Like granted, I can I find deals wherever I can,
Right.
but like I've definitely been trying to like cut myself back to like if I have a cup of coffee a day, it's like well before noon. Like I can't I use when I was like at like peak like work and like having to go to tournaments like multiple times like a week or whatever. I was drinking coffee like well after like the sun had went down, and that's just not good. So I'm definitely trying to like cut back on that. And some days I even go like with the whole day without drinking coffee. It's painful, but I've somehow managed to make it work.
Haven't done that yet. I don't know if I'll get that far. I think if I just like level off at one. Listen, man, I told myself when I was a young kid, I was like, I'm not gonna get addicted to coffee. I'm not gonna get addicted to coffee. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my god, Tim Hortons ice caps. What are these? And then, yeah, I just got hooked on coffee. I'm like, oh, that's a slippery slope.
Yep.
Although, similar to you, I have not purchased coffee much, if at all. Maybe like 3 times this entire pandemic that I
Wow.
haven't made myself. So yeah,
God bless you. You not all heroes wear capes, but yeah.
I
I
got a few
also.
kids.
No, that's true. You were a very well dressed person. But yes. It's funny you mentioned that. I remember the exact moment where I realized that coffee is actually not like the worst thing in the world. I remember my mom used to make fun of me forever. She was like, "You used to hate coffee." Like, my brother would drink coffee, was drinking coffee in like high school, and like I think he would start drinking coffee when he was 14. And I'm just like, oh god, that sounds disgusting. But like, I remember I had coffee once when I was in like high school and I hated it. And then I got to college and I'm like, you're telling me I could put sugar and milk in this stuff? Are you crazy? And sure enough, Pandora's box is open, and I've been struggling to close it for years.
Brother, I'm there with you. Although to be fair, once you get a hold on that lid, it gets a lot easier. It just takes a bit.
Oh yeah, 100%. But we are, well, we're out here, and there are some some things that I wanted to talk to you about today, and I'm very happy that you reached out, to be on the show, because you, like a lot of us, have been trying to keep busy. While the big gist of why I started this podcast is catch up with my friends, take advantage of the fact that I really like to talk about television and video games and however other stuff that I love to to talk about. But you have also been someone that's kept busy in quarantine as well. We talked about at the top of the of the podcast earlier this year, you launched the Royal Battle Association, which is a Pokemon Draft League. So why don't you go ahead and tell the folks at home how that whole process has been as we're 5+ months into the year.
Sure, absolutely. So the Royal Battle Association is something that I wanted to do after. Well, first things first, I actually started playing in draft leagues, or kind of joining the communities for those, in 2019. Although it was more of a subset of some of our wonderful people in the Ontario Smash community that were running them. So I joined one. I didn't start off very well because I wasn't really able to immediately get the idea of what the difference was between, say, standard ladder and draft league. And that's one of the big things you have to come to terms with, because you're only allowed to draft one of each Pokemon, and once it's taken, it's off the board. So you won't see the same teams every week at all. But at the same time, if there's something you really, really wanted to build around and try, you can't exactly put it together. So I've played in a few. I ended up doing all right by the end of the season because I started to get the hang of things. But I found I really enjoyed watching, observing, writing down strategies, and kind of doing some behind the scenes stuff, as I usually do, because I used to TO a lot, right? So I kind of participated and hung out in a few of my friends' draft league servers. There have been a few that are in our bubble that have been created. So we had the general starter league. We have another one that's more catered towards, I guess, beginners and another closer group of friends. We have a gimmick league, and then in January I decided, well, actually technically in December, because obviously I didn't immediately think about it overnight and put it together in 24 hours.
Sure.
I figured, you know what, I'm gonna cover one more side of this equation, and I'm gonna bring in the money league. Now the money isn't amazing, but it's something, and it rewards you for participating in a 10 to 13 week season, and allows you to really just kind of take Pokemon battling to a different avenue. So first season I ended up putting together in January. I got 16 teams together, both from various walks of life, mostly from the Smash communities, a lot from Ontario, but some from the great US of A. And we ended up running a 10-week season. No major hiccups. We'd have a couple of replacement coaches come in when commitments were too much for a couple of our players, and that does tend to happen because it's like a fantasy draft in a sense. You have to commit week over week. And obviously, if things come up and you're not able to continue the commitment, totally understandable. We're all human after all. But yeah, we ended up running that. We just had our finale this past Sunday. I'm not sure if you did watch, but we crowned our first champion, thanks to a Dragon Dance sweeping Mew.
I caught wind of that near the end of it, and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. There's so much to unpack when it comes to that, because it's when you build and draft teams and put them together for a draft league, it's totally different from the things you would consider in ladder. Because ladder, you're just running max stats, straight up, max speed, max attack, or offensive stat, or max HP, max defensive stat, and then just usually sticking it and being hey, you know what, this is it. For this, you have to consider speed tiers, you got to consider item choices, because in this there's item clause, so you're only limited to one item per Pokemon for the 6 that you bring. So that allows you to map out what Pokemon has what item, or what sets they're running, or what they could potentially speed creep. On top of that, more options are usually available for Pokemon to hit coverage options, or try different sets, or fill different roles. So I think that's one of the things that I wanted to bring more to the limelight, in addition to the leagues that my friends have been doing. But because I kind of wanted to do my own thing and also put this out there to more people because I feel like there's not enough people that play Pokemon and know about draft leagues. So I wanted to kind of get this up as somebody who I guess has crossed paths with a lot of people, and I see a lot of people on the timeline talking about Pokemon, talking about battling, whether it be like ladder, VGC, all that jazz. And I was like, you know what? Let's start this up. Why not?
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And like as someone as myself, who like I'm very, I love Pokemon. Pokemon's one of my favorite games. I've talked at multiple times, with different people about Pokemon on the podcast, and the concept of competitive Pokemon has always been something that I've wanted to like try and like get my feet wet in, but that like competitive floor, even though Game Freak and Pokemon Company has done like loads to make that much more accessible, for the casual person like me, it's just been one of those things where it's like I don't have that sort of resource to like sit down and do it myself. But I love watching other people do it. I love watching VGC. Obviously I remember, I was in high school, watching a lot of, Poketubers and such, do a lot of online battling and stuff like that. That's where I really got my feet wet with the concept of competitive Pokemon. Because I didn't know jack shit when I was a kid. I was just like, oh yeah, if, like anytime I like went to a competitive setting, where there was also an anime attached, I looked like such a fucking fool. Like these people ate me for lunch, Mickel. I remember I went to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament when I was like 9 or 10. And like I remember like I showed this guy like the card I was gonna play, and he's like, "Don't do that. This isn't the cartoon." And I'm like, "Oh no, this is terrible."
I'm sure we've had all of those regretful moments when we're just a young kid, we don't know any better. I used to enter Pokemon TCG tournaments when I was around that age too, so can definitely relate. Had a few of those moments myself. I was definitely just an excited, energetic little kid,
Yeah, I just wanted to believe in the heart of the cards. What's wrong with that? Like, come on.
Nothing, nothing at all. And you can still believe in the heart of the cards. I mean, you know what? I still do. I got one with me all the time, man. You already know. I got Ron.
That's true. I completely forgot about that. I recently I found like some like bootleg Egyptian God cards that I like. Some kid like gave them to me when I was in like the 4th grade, and I'm just like, these are cool. I can't use these in like competitive tournament because like they're definitely made out of like cereal boxes, but like they look cool at the very least. Like I've definitely I've used. I think I put them on in a brief stint when I was on Tinder. I like put the picture of them on my Tinder profile, and like with the few people that got the joke, they got the joke. So I was just like, all right, this is stuck. This works.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess it's like PCG obviously was something that you had to have like consistent money for to purchase things, and obviously as a kid you don't really have that disposable income, so it was fun while it lasted. But I was like, I can't really keep up with this right now.
Right, so to talk more about like the the RBA, so like as a
Yes.
what were some of the trials and tribulations that you experienced, being a commissioner? Like you said, that you had to deal with some coaching changes and stuff, but also the fact that you're doing all of this remotely. Like as someone who's participated in any sort of competitive setting thing like at home, like seeing the lengths that people go to like organize things like from an at home scenario, like whether it be people that like record content from home, like podcasts like what I'm doing, or like, running tournaments from home. The lengths that people have to jump through to do so, especially you as someone that also has like a full-time job, outside of just doing the general esports stuff. So like, what were some of like the things that like, you learned along the way of doing this first season?
Absolutely. So one of the big things I learned was that obviously in the first season, you have to navigate some interesting situations, and you try a lot of things, and sometimes accepting things that just don't work as well as you think it would. I know that I tried to push a lot to have every match streamed for season 1, and I did do that. I guess just my only gripe with that is it kind of took a little bit out of me when I was trying to balance that and my work-life balance. Obviously trying to get all that together because I gotta, set up for stream, get all the overlays, get everything loaded up. Obviously, I can only do it at a time when I'm available, so it depends on what I'm doing outside of work or any of that jazz. and getting all that together, and then also making sure that the people that are in my league can actually play at certain times. So trying to negotiate all of that is one thing in itself. I also do think that I guess like streaming matches, it is good and it definitely helps bring a little bit of exposure, but I feel like I was also overdoing it and over promoting it a lot. And a lot of people sometimes don't realize that they're doing that. I
Sure.
did, but I wanted to stick to my commitment just to get every match out for season one because I made that promise to. And I kind of, had that little bit of pride and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do that because I said I would. But I'm already like planning for season 2. I'm just going to dial it back and I'm only going to stream matches on like guaranteed Sundays and then maybe like another time when I'm like free during the week. But people are more than happy to play like offline just through the general showdown server without me streaming. But obviously, because I am who I am and I want to make sure that everybody's sets are legal, I always check before the match goes on to ensure that item clause isn't broken, there's no like moveset issues, all that jazz. Because I do have a list of clauses that I have on my actual league doc, which is actually another big thing I wanted to get into for this. One big thing, Koopa, about running a draft league is you have to have a good doc.
Sure, I believe it.
You have to have a good document in order to run the league. You need to make sure everything is clear cut, it's visible. You also want to make sure you're not doing as much work as you have to on the doc. And early on, almost none of my doc was like automated, so I had to like manually input everything for the first week or so, and that will, on top of me trying to stream everything, balancing work, and doing all that jazz, it wasn't fun. I'll tell you that. On top of that, I was also doing side events every second weekend, so week 1 also had the side event. So yeah, you could just imagine how crazy the start of season 1 was.
Oh yeah, like power to you, man. That's a lot of stuff. What was your favorite team that you ran or like someone else ran like throughout the course of the season? Because like the concept of like a draft league with like item clauses and like all the shenanigans you can run into in like a general like singles game of showdown can be kind of hectic as someone that like spent some time like years ago on the ladder, running some broken teams and having some very unkind things said about my mother in an internet chat. So like, what are some of your highlights from the season that you really enjoyed?
One of the highlights from the season, I think one of the early ones was when my good friend Benji, who was the coach of the Carson Mercuros, switched in Scarf Gardevoir on Ego, traced Beast Boost, and reverse swept. That was glorious. Because
shit.
As soon as Nihiligo went down, I think the other person just spent 5 minutes calcing to try and figure out a way out of this mess, and they just could not win. Like literally, the whole battle at that point was effectively a rollover because of that. It's all those like weird little nuanced things you have to watch out for in a draft league that could just get you if you're not careful. There was another one as well where somebody, I guess, kept trying to set up with their Primarina with Calm Mind, and they got too greedy on multiple occasions. But it only took until like the third time for the other trainer to realize that this guy was just trying to mash the button without checking calcs and figuring out how to obliterate this team.
Oh,
and then just kind of went in and just Life Orb Gengared him and won the battle. There was another one that went like 150 turns because one person was trying to stall with Silvally Fairy with rest and sleep talk or rest talking, and the other person basically couldn't lose, but they didn't know how to break it for the longest time. So the battle went 100 turns longer than necessary. And it was just like, I want to go home.
That is like the Pokemon equivalent of like, two players are sandbagging in grand finals and it goes to a game 10 reset and it's like 1 o'clock at night, the Taco Bell closed 2 hours ago and you have not eaten since lunch that day. And it's like, God, like what did I do to deserve this right now?
No, for sure. I think it's just like I kind of was there, and it was like trainer I couldn't like look away from because at the end of the day, this is my league. So like, all right, you know what? This I just got to sit through it and just have fun. And,
I think that's so awesome. And like I mentioned, as much as I enjoy like the VGC format of Pokemon, it's brought me great joy. Whenever I get to watch any of the high profile Pokemon events that happen throughout the year. But but it's that thing where it's like doubles is just kind of gets a little dry. That's why I've always enjoyed like watching the content of people doing things differently, whether it be showdown battles or like challenge battles or like what you've been doing with the draft league. And I think that is super cool. If you're someone who's very entry level into competitive Pokemon, I think VGC can be a little overwhelming at times, and there's tons of other there's tons of great content creators out there, people that break it down to a fine powder for you. But like definitely just like watch some showdown content, because Pokemon Showdown gives you all the resources you need. It breaks everything down for you, to the real bite-sized pieces, and you can get to run these Pokemon in singles, and then see how you can feng shui that into a functioning doubles team. I remember spending, like I said, so many man hours. I think it was when X and Y like just dropped,
First
and
drop?
like and I think Mega Kangaskhan. Mega Kangaskhan, is that the one that was broken?
Mega Kangaskhan is still broken.
Yeah.
Even though it's not technically in the game anymore, it's still broken because of one thing and one thing only. 2 times seismic toss. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, like back when like it was like day one, but like Mega Kangaskhan was absolutely busted, and like again I had people say so many rude things to me in the Pokemon Showdown chat, and I've never felt better about myself before. But listen, I love it. I think it's cool. I'm definitely getting into a Pokemon mood again. I've been casually playing through, actually, believe it, the aforementioned Pokemon X and Y again recently, just to kind of keep my brain busy, because I have a feeling we might, we get some new Pokemon news potentially coming at E3. Obviously, Pokemon Snap just dropped. I haven't got a chance to play it yet because it's been sold out everywhere, and that's not a game I want to like download on my Switch to like take up space. So Pokemon is definitely here again, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. I also haven't purchased Snap yet, but I've told myself when I get a chance to kind of like dial back from the hecticness, I'll do the same. One more thing I want to add, or actually 2 more things I want to add, just quickly.
Please go ahead, by all means.
Yeah, for sure. It just in general terms for draft leagues. So one of the things is, obviously with VGC, you have to kind of create your own teams in game. Here for draft leagues, all you have to do is just go on a showdown, put your team together from everything that you've drafted, put your sets in, and you just battle the other person right away. Very quick, very painless. Obviously, the planning part might take a little bit longer than being quick and painless, depending on who you're playing and how you play. But it's definitely a lot more accessible in a sense compared to VGC. Another thing that I really like about just draft leagues in general is the fact that you get to have so many undervalued or underused Pokemon step up to the forefront, because not everybody's going to be running a team of fucking world beaters. Let's get that straight. Because of how the tiered system works and how the extra point values work, you're not going to get a full team of 10 of like Dragapult, Landorus T, Skarmory, Latios, etc. Like that's just not going to happen. So you have to fill like those roles, and looking at the lower tiered Pokemon, like a tier 3, tier 4, or even a tier 5, that can help you out. And maybe even might be a favorite of yours. This could be a chance to give it a shot and run it, and actually see some success if you're able to play it up to your potential.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, and that's, again, it's one of my favorite things about like watching these like different Pokemon formats. Like you said, you get to see some of these lesser known Pokemon shine a bit. I always think fondly back to Seijun Park and Pachirisu. Bless that. That was a beautiful point in time. And spoiler alert, Seijun Park is also very good at Super Smash Brothers, because he qualified for the Smash World Tour off regional finals, which is absolutely bonkers when I found that out. So it was definitely a real glass shattering moment. And I love that sort of thing about Showdown, just taking like the weird are you like never used Pokemon, and like somehow being able to make chicken salad out of chicken shit sometimes. It's truly a work of art.
Turn 1, me sending out Lycanroc Midnight against the Scizor and countering its Bullet Punch because I had a sash. Godlike moment.
Brother. Woo! I'm sweating. My God. Like,
oh man.
Yeah, but again, I'm gonna have links to all of your Twitch stuff below, in the video description and wherever you listen to the podcast. So you guys can please definitely check it out. Whenever I was able to tune in to the to the RBA, it was awesome, and I am very much looking forward to season 2, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we continue to have fun here because, like we mentioned at the top of the podcast, Mickel,
Yes.
you and I both enjoy a sport, the sport of basketball, outside of just enjoying, Super Smash Bros. And all things nerdy. And, for all you sports heads out there who've been dying for me to talk more about sports, for the few of you that I'm sure exist, we're going to be talking a bit about the NBA playoffs. So, as we mentioned at the top, you are a Toronto Raptors fan, through and through. Rough season for the team. Definitely getting handed the worst hand out of any team playing in the NBA this year. Literally not playing a true home game throughout the entire calendar year. I'm an obnoxious Knicks fan who will be calling for championship or bust this season, as my team has risen from the ashes after 8 long years of mediocrity. That was followed by one brief moment of success, which subsequently led to like 20 years of mediocrity. So it hasn't been fun. So I'll ask you, are you how much basketball did you actually consume this year? Because like I feel like with the pandemic and stuff, I definitely was like able to catch more games than I could, and obviously helped the fact that my team was actually good this year. So like I was definitely more inclined to watch more basketball. But like, how much basketball did you consume this year, and are you excited for the playoffs? That's dumb as a question as that may be.
Totally okay. No, it's a valid question. Obviously, you're covering your bases. Anyways, speaking, this is the wrong sport to discuss bases. We're talking about hoops, but
Yeah.
we're here. I didn't watch like an awful lot. Like I can't say like I went up every night and tuned in the game, but usually I'd find when the Raptors were playing and just kind of follow that, and then just like follow up to another big marquee game going on. I don't know. I guess there's like with the pandemic, because I felt like there was just a little too much going on, I guess, in a sense. Once everything came back, like I loved watching the bubble, I'll be honest with you. That was just great entertainment because it was like the first one back, and it was like, everybody's in this one area congregating, playing regular season games, and they're just like playing the playoffs, and this like 16 teams just kind of staying in the same area for like a few months.
Yeah, it was sick. It was so cool.
I was hyped. And then it just kind of like got back, and I was like, I don't know. I'm just I'll watch from afar, but I always like kept track of like highlights and all that jazz. Like maybe I watch more highlights than live games. This past season. Not that's a bad thing, because sometimes there's like when you watch the highlights, you pay attention to a lot of things you weren't like looking at before. So I did, as I mentioned, follow my Raptors this season. Unfortunately, a bit of a down year, like you said. But you know what? We had several things work against us. Obviously, being in Tampa for the whole season and not being able to come to Toronto to play any games. It definitely affects the team a bit because, some of the guys have been there for a while. They've got families there. So it's a little bit rough to kind of have to adapt to such a weird situation. And then, like, they're not even, like, your home fans, per se, even though you're kind of, like, renting out their spot. Early season, we couldn't buy a win because we couldn't close out games. That was a fun period. We bounced back from that. I think we got to 500 at one point, and then COVID hit our team like a fucking steam train at the end of February.
Yeah,
and I think the season just fishtailed from there. So
yeah, that was crazy. I didn't realize like quite how bad that actually was until I like kind of like read up on the news on it. But like Nick Nurse caught it at one point. Like everybody was like catching COVID at some point, and I remember I'm looking at some of these lineups that they're throwing out, and I'm just like, who are these people? Some of the team was just, and like a lot of teams definitely ran into that issue, across sports as well. I remember early in the season, I forget who it was, but I know another team definitely ran into a similar issue, and even later down the stretch, I think Washington ran into a similar problem as well. So granted, it was one of those things where the league was able to work past it for the most part, but it definitely leads to a competitive disadvantage, especially like you said, you're playing the entirety of your home games, not only just like in a country that your native fans don't exist in, but you're playing in arguably the worst sports city in America. Florida sports fans are as bad as they say. I will get on my high horse and say that. I've been to sporting events in Florida. I went to a Miami Marlins game like 5 or 6 years ago, and like
oh no,
the stands fill up, but like everybody is so checked out by like the 6th inning. Now, granted, it's the Marlins. I get it. They were pretty fucking bad back then. But like even then, it's just like you spend all this money to go to a baseball game to just like read like I don't know, the Miami Herald on your iPad when you're like 6 rows from like the third baseline. Like, what are we doing here? Like this is I didn't think it was actually as bad as it was until I saw it firsthand myself. So that was definitely rough. But listen, the Raptors definitely are I guess still feeling the effects of a championship hangover. They are 2 years removed from winning an NBA title. There's some. Go ahead.
Yeah. I do want to say this, like, obviously the playoff run we had last season was also like kind of crazy because if we had beaten Boston in Game 7, I think we could have gone to the final once again. It just wasn't meant to be with what ended up playing out in the late game. But yeah, I think we really felt it this year, like you said. But that being considered, I think there's still a lot of positive points about this season. We got the chance to try out a bunch of young players, bringing in a few faces that I wouldn't have immediately pegged as contributors to the Raptors franchise. Obviously, I'm not sure if these names are familiar, but we brought in Kem Birch later on in the season, and he actually proved to be actually quite good for us. I feel like Orlando misused that guy, and he's actually a native Montrealer, so shout out to Canada. Chris Boucher definitely had some moments this year where he kind of went off. Very unassuming player to do so, but fun watch. And the continued progression of young fellows like OG, obviously, Fred has another year. Gary Trent, who we traded for at the deadline, obviously sent Norman Powell away. Definitely a little bit bittersweet there because I love Norm. Norm was a great contributor. Definitely rooting for him in the playoffs as well. But Gary Trent was really good for us too. So I'm just excited to see how many of the young guys we bring back. We have the 7th best draft lottery odds as well, so we can definitely rebound if everything goes our way next year.
Yeah. Granted, if obviously if the ping pong balls bounce right, you never know what could end up happening. And again, dude, there's still some good pieces here. I think obviously, if as a Raptors fan, I'm sure you heard a lot of the jargon of like how are they going to recover in a post Kawhi Leonard sort of situation, and they found some great pieces there. Pascal Siakam, averaged over 20 points a game. Fred VanVleet became over the offseason, rightfully so, the highest paid undrafted player of all time this past offseason.
Bet on yourself.
Yeah. Listen, go off, King. And I was definitely clamoring for the Knicks to throw the max at Fred VanVleet in the offseason. Yeah. And granted, knowing how things go now, I'm for the most part living with it. But listen, I think there's always bound to be ebbs and flows with how basketball goes. There's always a lot of parity in basketball. I feel like compared to most sports, some teams are going to be god awful for a while. Or at least, granted, some teams I think are just destined to be bad. Like I feel like the Kings are the Kings are probably just like destined to be in mediocrity. Like Detroit was god awful this season. Orlando, like at the aforementioned, Magic, haven't been able to get it right since that one lone run to the finals over 10 years ago.
Rockets are going to be bad for a while.
Yeah, that team looked horrible this year. Like, sheesh.
But yeah, like I'll be. No, for sure. I think one of the things to note is that I've lived through a lot of bad years as a Raptors fan myself. The period from 04 to 13 was filled with a lot of, 03 to 13 actually. You know what? I'll stretch that a bit. Filled with a lot of pain, a lot of bad mismanagement, players that didn't give it their all in the colors. Disappointing draft pick after disappointing draft pick. I'm sure you and I can both sympathize over a certain Primo Pasta enjoyer. Mr. Andrea Bargnani.
Fucking
I'm sorry.
Me. Oh my god. Jesus.
But you know Christ. What? We bounced back from that, and I feel a lot more confident and assured about the team just in general compared to back then. And it's night and day. Now that I guess we've covered my block, obviously. Now that I know you're like a massive Knicks fan, and let's talk about your boys. I'll let you bring the point around. I'm pleasantly surprised by them. Go ahead.
100%. So like I obviously like I mentioned, I don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about sports, but I love basketball. Basketball is like, it's definitely tied with baseball, I think, is with my favorite sport now. Despite the fact that I root for, a team that has been the butt of every, NBA joke for the better part, for, again, more so the last 8 years, but, for a long time, the Knicks haven't been able to get it right under most circumstances. But, for as long as I've been a fan of basketball, I started watching, obviously when I was a kid and stuff. So, I caught the tail end of a lot of those, like, okay Knicks teams. And then, like, I start, I blocking out years of, like, 2009 to like 2012, where like that team was just like trash buckets. And, I'll touch back on that at the end of the podcast for another reason, for a story that came out today. But I'm very excited. Listen, I had my, obviously going back to last season, there was so much talk about the Knicks, being a premier destination for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, that, people were saying there's no doubt that these players are going to come here. That's why you brought in David Fizdale, who's, again, a player's coach, so to say, to get these guys to show here. And then, you come out of that offseason with, Bobby Portis, and with Bobby Portis, Julius Randle, a lot of not great stuff. Reggie Bullock, obviously, and trading the one good thing from the Phil Jackson era in Kristaps Porzingis for chump change. You dumped off a once in a generation for at the time. Retrospect, hindsight's obviously 2020 at this point, but at the time that was seen as a big deal. You're dumping off, a unicorn of a player, a big guy that can shoot from the outside and play defense inside, for Dennis Smith Jr. and a gaggle of nobodies. So it definitely took me by surprise. It took me a while to heal from that, and that 2019-2020 season was rough. And then coming into the season, obviously, I do that Knicks thing where I'm, very excited. Obviously, a top 10 draft pick, turned into Obi Toppin, who, again, with no NCAA tournament, it's really hard to get excited about a lot of those guys. But, Obi Toppin was the AP Player of the Year, coming out of, college last season. So I'm like, yeah, I can get excited about this. It's another power forward when this team hasn't had a real point guard it's in over 15 fucking years. So,
he's one.
with a backcourt that has featured the likes of, Pablo Prigioni, Jose Calderon, Tony Douglas. Yeah, exactly. Alexei Shrev, Langston Galloway, again, stop me, real riveting backcourt of winners here. Chris Duhon, may he rest in yeah. Although still set the Knicks record for most assists in a game, by the way, though, so I'll put some respect on his name. And again, 2015 Derrick Rose, who literally went AWOL. So there's a lot of pain and suffering from the point guard position for the Knicks, for years. And again, as it's proven in the league, it's a point guard driven league. It's like having a quarterback in football. You need one. So, you think that the Knicks might draft, a point guard, they draft a power forward, and then, they draft this relatively unknown point guard with, like, their second first round pick, and everyone's just like, all right, whatever. Like, I don't know how to feel about this. And then you see them get into court, and it's like Tom Thibodeau and this coaching staff just, like, squeezed every ounce out of these players. I am changing my tune on Julius Randle. I'm all in on it. I want them to I want him to be a Knick for life. I wanted them to retire his jersey. They won't, because they'll retire for Bernard King first, if they retire it at all. But I'm all on board with it. I think it's a great story. He's been great. Again, Reggie Bullock had a rough first season as a Knick, and he turned into a real great 3-and-D guy this season. The Knicks have always felt like an island of misfit toys for, like, veterans that need a job and, like, disgruntled, failed first-round lottery picks. And, you saw a lot of that this past season. Julius Randle, for the most part, was written off as, like, he's already reached his ceiling for the most part. Nerlens Noel was looked at as merely a defensive specialist, and nothing, he's hopped around the league a lot as well. And then, you got relative, unknowns in, Emmanuel Quickly, and then they trade for Derrick Rose randomly in the middle of the season. The Tibbs Derrick Rose thing was always kind of weird. And then, you had some okay pieces in, like, Mitchell Robinson, and you don't know what you're going to get out of RJ Barrett in a sophomore season. And everything just took a great step in the right direction. And listen, if you told me that this team was going to, if you told me that the Knicks were going to play in the play-in game tonight, I would be okay. If they got the 9th seed and lost, I would have considered the season a win. But they're a 4 seed. They have home court advantage. They have, Julius Randle's definitely an all-NBA player this year. Emmanuel quickly, has become my adopted son. I want everything to do with him for the rest of my life. And this team's really put it together. And, if they lose in the first round, whatever, if they win and get blown out by Philly in the next round, I'll be okay. But I can leave my house in Knicks gear and not fear for being laughed at in public, Mickel. It's great. And I love it. And I'm so excited.
I can't imagine, obviously the last, I'll extend this even further. I think the last 20 years or so, for the most part, have been utter terror for you guys. So like seeing, I know it's been said a lot. It sounds kind of corny, but the NBA is a better place when the Knicks are good.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if you have a team in a major market like that people immediately like reference when they think or talk about the NBA, the Knicks is usually the first on their list, no matter how good or how bad they are, because of where they played, because of, the history behind the team, because of all the big names that have been there. Watching them play this season when I've had the opportunity to has been something of a throwback, I'm not going to lie. The league has taken a big jump in offense over the last several seasons, as we've seen, with lots of people just running and gunning 3-pointers. Tibbs has dialed it back a little and still made defense sexy,
Yeah.
I've seen so many games where they've held teams to like under 90 points, and it's like that used to be commonplace, but that's so rare nowadays, and it's not appreciated enough because players and teams and everybody in general has just gotten so much better offensively. The pace of the game has gone up, and lo and behold, they're able to play this style and eke out a lot of wins out of this. I mean, they're 41 wins this season out of 72 games. That's super impressive considering where they were a year ago. That can't just be attributed to, obviously the coach has a lot of say in this, but the mentality of the players buying in has been really, really great to watch. And I'll be real with you, I also kind of laughed at Randall after the first season, called him Beyblade and all that. Just kind of like thinking it was just a waste of money and a dude who was just going to get his paychecks and produce when he wanted to and so on and so forth. But the dude became a triple-double machine.
Yeah.
Like, he became a triple-double machine, but not only that, his shooting percentages went way up. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he shot around like 27% last season from 3. Last season?
Yep.
And he increased his 3-point attempts and shot 41%. That is, I don't know what to say to that. That's just insane. Like, on top of all the other things he's done, obviously, just not even the things that don't even show up on the score sheet. Like, he's been an incredible player, and obviously MVP, I feel like, is going to another big individual in the Mile High City this year, but I do think Julius Randle should be the nailed-on favorite for most improved player, given what he's been able to do this season.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think a lot of that has to do with, Kenny Payne has been a huge influence in the players in the locker room, a former consistent in Kentucky. And again, the biggest running joke amongst the league is that the Knicks are just the Kentucky Wildcats of the North because half of their roster is played for John Calipari and the Kentucky Wildcats. But again, that makes a huge difference. And I think what you see with Julius Randle now is it really exploits an issue with, drafting players into the NBA is that, you draft Julius Randle got drafted out as a freshman by when he got drafted by the Lakers. And, granted, he had a lot of issues going into that. He broke his ankle in his season debut. He wasn't, necessarily right the whole time while he was there. But, he's a young guy and I had to remind myself that me and Julius Randle were born in the same year. We're both the same age. He's 26. I'm 27. So it's
94.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's so many times in this league, people are just willing to just throw away the the potential of what a player can be instead of, they're looking for that immediate success. They're looking for what a Tyrese Halliburton can bring to the league. They want instant impact instead of, what Julius Randle might be. He's always been, again, a stats guy. He's always averaged, near 20 points a game. It's always been about him putting it together. And this year, like you saw, he greatly improved his 3-point percentages. There's some times where he's playing isolation ball. It looks like Carmelo Anthony from 7 years ago. He's isoed up against somebody, backing them into the corner and hitting, a jumper from like 20 feet away, and it's buckets all day. So to watch him develop his game like that has been great. To see, to be excited about a Knicks backcourt that looks, competent. Obviously, Emmanuel Quickley has been a great surprise in the league this year, but the return of Derrick Rose has been something I was not expecting. When I found out that they traded for Derrick Rose, I'm just like, oh God, it's Tibbs being Tibbs again. He just can't not be on a team without Derrick Rose in some capacity. And listen, Derrick Rose has been quintessential for this team. I thought he's averaging near I think I forget what it is. It's like 18 or 19 points a game off the bench or whatever. And I thought he should get some votes for Sixth Man of the Year, but I think he missed too much time. Personally, that's probably going to go to what's his name from the Jazz, Eric Clarkson.
Oh, Joe Ingles. Or they're actually it's either Joe Ingles or Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah,
either
Clarkson.
of them are.
Yeah, well, yeah, one or two of them are probably going to get Sixth Man of the Year. But Derrick Rose has been instrumental. I'm watching him play basketball, and this is the 10-year anniversary of him winning the MVP back in 2011, and he's doing Derrick Rose things. He's crossing people up in the paint. He's getting to the basket and scoring. He's shooting better from 3-point percentage, and there's been games where he's had to carry off of the bench. He's had to be the guy that scores along second or third alongside Randall or Barrett. When one of those guys just doesn't have it, and he's been very vocal about how this time in New York was good for him, how he got it, how he looks at it as a blessing in disguise. He got his mind right. He had to learn how to be, a third fiddle when he came here the first time back in 2015. And he's turned that into being a pretty decent bench player for the last 5 or 6 years for, a couple of other teams. So it's been a great story. And I am expecting him to see a lot more playoff minutes.
Yes.
For every game I have to watch Elfrid Payton start, I just die a little bit on the inside. I'm sure he's a very nice man, but my God, it's just it's painful to watch. But
he's not worth it, man.
No, it's not. It's not. And wherever this might go, I'm not exactly sure what the plans are going to be. I have a feeling that a trade might be happening this offseason. I don't know with who. It could be Bradley Beal. It could be somebody else. I don't know what they're going to do without fucking up the feng shui of this team. But there's young players to be excited about. RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, like I mentioned. Julius Randle, again, still super young. Mitchell Robinson, before he got hurt, was having a great year this season. And Nerlens Noel is starting to do a great story this year, too. Defensive, stalwart. He's been huge in so many of these games. So it's one of those things where, again, the Knicks have always been really good at picking up, players like Derek Williams and Brandon Jennings and all these failed lottery picks I could go on for days talking about. But some of these guys that they've picked up on recent years have been stellar. Now, do I expect the Knicks to make it? If the Knicks win, do I expect them to get past Philly? Absolutely not. No. That team is fucking. Philly is fucking disgusting. That team, as much as I hate to admit it, the process has worked out, and they again. Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle are going to be all NBA defensive team this year. Joel Embiid will get votes for MVP. That team is solid, and the Nets are obviously solid. So, there's so much to talk about there. But it's been a great story for me personally as a Knicks fan. I'm really excited. And again, the Western Conference is exciting too. We mentioned, Jokic is probably going to win MVP. Rightfully so. He's been great all season. The story of Phoenix has been absolutely fantastic.
Love their turnaround.
I think, and it's great for them. Again, random Nick legend, Langston Galloway, providing great backup minutes. It said no one ever, but I've always been a huge fan of Chris Paul, so I hope to see that team, maybe get their chance this year. Utah's been, the only team that's been consistent all season. And if the Lakers win again, whatever, I'll be fine. LeBron is in Space Jam. I can't give a shit about what he does anymore. He's done everything. He has nothing left to prove. So I'm really excited. Do you have a pick for what the finals is going to look like? What are you feeling?
Oh, this is This is rough because obviously with how the regular season has gone, and again, like I think especially in a season like this, you can't really put too much stock in the regular season because of, certain teams having a much shorter return to play than others. Like, see the Lakers and the Heat. Lakers are in the 7th seed, Heat are in the 6th seed, respectively. Boston's at the 7 as well. So there were definitely some teams that were affected quite a bit, trying to, I guess, keep pace in the regular season, but still eke out a playoff or a play-in spot. Regardless, I think our NBA Finals matchup is going to be Lakers versus Sixers. I think the Nets don't have enough games with the big three together that I think they're going to run into some problems from the second round onwards. They probably will beat the Bucks. I know Giannis has been feasting on them, but again, the Bucks have been kind of iffy in the playoffs themselves. We'll see how they do with Drew. I just think the Sixers, with what they have, their defensive steel, obviously Embiid elevating himself to an MVP level as well this season. I think they're just going to have too much for Brooklyn and everybody else in the East. And the Lakers, listen, they're in the playoff game, and based on what happened tonight, things could definitely shift a little bit for them. But I feel confident enough in that team if they have all their pieces. AD and LeBron did sit for a majority of like the second half of the season. So if they've got them back and they're healthy, I think they get back to the final for sure. Whether they win it all is another question entirely. I think I put them as a slight favorite, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, that's a great point as well. As much as I want to ride my Knicks all the way to the finals, that is not going to happen in any sort of fashion. But mark my words, if the Knicks make it, like, if the Knicks beat the Sixers, I won't shut up about it for the rest of my life. Like, I'm looking at every single one of my Philadelphia area sports fans. I'm looking you all in the eye, and I'm being the most obnoxious son of a bitch you'll meet in your entire life. But that's not, in a perfect world, that's not going to happen. I think the Sixers, I think this is their time. They've definitely played second fiddle, to, the LeBron-led Cavs, and obviously having their heart ripped out of their chests, by Kawhi Leonard and company, a couple of years ago. I think this is finally their time where they get everything, operating on a level where they can definitely make a finals run. It's so hard in the West because Utah's been, like I said, great all season. I just don't know what their makeup's going to look like when they get to the, if they have to play like a Clippers, with a couple of superstars and stuff. If they get past Dallas, I don't know how they're going to combat, whether it be the Lakers, if they can get past Phoenix. I think if you're Phoenix, you want Golden State to win this game, because I think the one team that gave them fits this season was the Lakers. So I think if you're Phoenix, and obviously it'd be a great story for the NBA. Steph Curry has been an absolute menace to society this year. God help him. He's been absolutely amazing. But
is it crazy to say that we predicted this would happen as soon as Clay went down?
I am not shocked. Steph, once you saw how, Durant left and Steph and, Clay was going to be out for another season again, granted, some people were like, oh, the Warriors got pretty lucky in landing, the second pick of the draft, and they got, James Wiseman, who for, not anything to himself, didn't really pan out, as great in his first season. Granted, he got hurt, and wasn't able to finish it out. But Steph Curry has turned back the clock and has reminded us all that he's the best shooter in NBA history. He could have been a Knick, but I'm done being upset about it. Jordan Hill was a great random Knick legend. I'm still.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It hurts. It hurts right here.
Listen, if you feel bad, Minnesota fans feel even worse about that. But anyways,
true. Very well played, sir. But I'm gonna say fuck it, and I'm gonna say Phoenix makes it to the finals, because I think Chris Paul has been a godsend to this team this year. I didn't know how him and Devin Booker would work together. Spoiler alert, it's been great. And Chris Paul is still like a man's man, point god. He's one of my favorite players to watch. And, the development of DeAndre Ayton has been great. Miles Bridges has been a great player for them this season too. Which Bridges is it on Phoenix? Is it Mickel or Miles? I think it's Miles, right?
Miles is actually on the Hornets.
That's the
Mickel
one.
is
Mikhail's the
on
one that's on. Yeah, well,
yeah.
regardless, both bridges have been fantastic
They
in
have.
for their respective teams. Now, granted, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers, beat the Warriors into submission and they go on
Right.
and win it all. And at the time we're recording this, Memphis has a slight lead over the San Antonio Spurs. Who cares? But I think my finals prediction right now, I'm going Phoenix and Philly, and I think Philly will win that in like 6 games. Let's go with that.
I guess I'll cap off my prediction by saying Lakers in 7.
That's not a bad choice. So
Yeah.
we've been going at it for quite a bit here. But before we get out of here, I couldn't close out this podcast without talking about again a player who has crossed both Raptors, both the Raptors and the New York Knicks. Jeremy Lin potentially announcing today that it's hinting that he is potentially retiring from the NBA. Jeremy Lin, if you're not, has spent this past season, or at least, for the most part, this whole season in the G League for the Santa Cruz Warriors, and did not receive a call up to the NBA. So he released a very long post today, kind of insinuating that he's probably hanging it up at the ripe age of 33. Obviously, Jeremy Lin won a championship with the Toronto Raptors. I have to put respect on his name and say that.
True.
And he provided the best 12-game stretch in New York Knicks' recent memory, back from that awful 2012-2013 season. Lin's, and so Mickel, what are your thoughts on Jeremy Lin as a whole, as an NBA player?
I feel like he never got a fair shake, I'll admit I wasn't expecting Linsanity to take off like it did when it did. But after that, obviously there were all the rumors backstage about how, I guess I can't confirm or deny this, but Melo wasn't a big fan of him, and then they shipped him off to Houston.
Oh, 110%. That was real.
Yeah, that was real? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like Carmelo, one of the biggest things that sports, if you listen to any sort of basketball person in New York, they'll tell you that one of the biggest things that they wish is that Carmelo Anthony just played a little bit nicer with Jeremy Lin. But
yeah, if Carmelo Anthony just played a little bit nicer in general, I think the Knicks might have been a lot better off. You're right.
Yeah, please don't get me started.
But hey, in terms of his overall career, he put up solid numbers wherever he went. I guess turnover rates be damned. But definitely looked like he was about to take it to another level in Brooklyn, because he actually played there for a couple of seasons. If you remember,
Yes.
Joined them in 2016. He actually went back up to his Knick averages in points per game of 14.5. And then the first game, actually, he only played one game the next season because he got injured and tore his ACL, I believe, that very first game, and he had 18 points. And I just want to think what could have been, because I think that really just robbed him of several more years in the league, in my opinion. Obviously he had to sit out for a year. Then he joined the Hawks the next season. We traded for him, or I don't know if did we trade for him? I'm trying to think of how we got. Oh, it was waivers.
Yeah, it was waivers.
He got
yes.
bought out. We used waivers. He got bought out. He joined us. He wasn't particularly good for us, unfortunately. There was actually a point in the 2019 playoffs where people wanted him to start over Van Vliet, because Freddie wasn't actually playing that well in that series. Reason being is that he didn't actually match up that well with Philly, height-wise. So they were kind of all over him, and people wanted to see Lin. We didn't get Lin, but we did get a comeback in the series, and Van Vliet was, as you know, kind of turned it on, and the rest was history, as they say. But yeah, I'm glad we got him a ring. Sad to see him go. Seems like one of the nicest dudes out there too. That's why I kind of wanted it to work out for him a little bit more. But at least he gets to retire with a championship and a lot of good memories.
Yeah, no, 100%. Listen, the story is great. An undrafted kid out of Harvard, ended up, again, Linsanity was monumental. Being able to witness that in the real time. Granted, I was a freshman in high school at the time. I was still pretty fresh and don't remember a whole lot about anything from 10 plus years ago. But it was crazy. Listen, it was in a period of time where, again, the Knicks had a plethora of problems at the point guard position. Carmelo Anthony was hurt. Everybody was hurt. This was I believe they waived Chauncey Billups. Tony Douglas was the starting point guard. He was trash. I think they claimed Baron Davis off of waivers. Baron Davis couldn't stay healthy, so I think they ended up trading for Mike Bibby at some point. And Mike Bibby was, your backup point guard, and Jeremy Lin at one point was almost cut, to make room for, for somebody else on the roster. But at the end of a game, Mike D'Antoni's like, fuck it, let's see what he's got. And, he showed some promise, and then, cap off, go on a 12-game stretch where, he became a legend, out dueling Kobe Bryant, in a game against the Lakers, that game winner against the Raptors, absolutely just putting on a fucking show. And it was great. Again, in a time period where the Knicks were still, building towards something, bigger. They're, again, one season away from really, putting it all together, to get to that 50-win season. And listen, I wish in a different world, Carmelo Anthony, like we said, could have played a little bit nicer with Jeremy Lin. I think Carmelo Anthony's definitely come around a bit more to being like the second fiddle, as he's prolonged his career, the last few years. But it was a great story. It was fun to watch in the moment. And again, he made some promising stops in other places. A brief stint with the Lakers, obviously. He's really played. He's performed, pretty well, in most places that he's gone. And again, that season in Brooklyn where, things were really turning around for him before he, it all kind of went south for him. But listen, it was a great story then. It's still a great story now. I'm looking forward to what he does, next in his career. He's super smart. I've listened to a lot of interviews with him. He's a super high basketball IQ. So I hope, somewhere there's a podcast for him or like, some, network throw some money at him to be like an in-game analyst, because that would be great. So, if it is indeed a career for Jeremy Lin, Godspeed to you, friend. You are, you were great. Linsanity brought me a lot of joy, a lot of memes. And those games are still a lot of fun to watch highlight clips of, every couple of months. So.
Yeah, I'll admit, like I actually just watched his the highlights of his game against us when he hit the game winner.
Yeah,
a few weeks back. You know what? Listen, the loss sucks, but it was just fun seeing that in action and getting a chance to. I think it was also on like Asian Heritage Night. Like it just kind of happened to be that night, I think, and then he was there, and then it like the whole place just went like crazy when he hit that game winner. So.
Yeah, no, it was great stuff. So, if it is a career for Jeremy Lin, best of luck in your second career and whatever you choose to do. But listen, we've been going for a bit over an hour, Mickel. So I think we're getting ready to wrap things up here. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for sitting down and talking to me today. This is a lot of fun. I knew you were going to be a great talk because we've always had great conversations, at tournaments and stuff. And, I look forward to giving you a fully vaccinated hug at some point in the future. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Very welcome, Koopa, and likewise. I'm one for hugs as well. I definitely do give out a few of those myself. So once I am fully vaccinated, TBD, we'll definitely have to make up on that and catch up from where we left off. As we do.
Yes, sir. So where can the people at home find you? Go ahead and plug all your stuff right now.
Absolutely. So the people at home can find me on Twitter is where I'm most active. My handle is Mickel and Co. Co as in CEO, as in company, as in whatever you want to call it. The Co is whatever you want it to be, but that's where you'll find it. Mickel and Co. That's my Twitter. That's also my Twitch. I believe that is also my Instagram. I'll be honest, I don't really use Instagram much, but feel free to follow me if I ever do become active.
There you go.
Discord, I am just Mickel. My number is 9812, if that's important, if you need to find me at any point. Also, one more thing, if you want to stay up to date on RBA news, season 2 signups, I'll have as my pinned tweet once they're ready on my Twitter. So all you have to do is find there. You can join the Discord through that, and you can look forward to seeing what's happening in the upcoming season. It's going to be a show, and I hope you all take part.
Yeah, and again, this will all be in the description of wherever you listen to your podcast, and on the YouTube description when this goes up on Saturday. So again, if you guys want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at KoopaNJ across Twitter and Twitch and Instagram again if you want to use it. Follow the show at Koop'd Up Pod. Email us questions at koopduppod@gmail.com. And again, we are available wherever you get your podcast at. So, subscribe to us on Spotify. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We can get better exposure on the platform. Leave a thumbs up or the YouTube video. Whatever you can do to promote the content and stuff. So, again, appreciate you guys for listening. And as always, have yourselves a wonderful time and take care, ladies and gentlemen.